They believe Avery's connection to grandfather will make him bend over backward to appear neutral, perhaps even favoring them to avoid any appearance of bias. They don't understand that true impartiality was grandfather's most sacred principle, one he would have instilled in any protege worthy of his guidance. Very well. Avery nods. Opening statements then. Mr. Dale? Dale buttons his jacket as he approaches the bench. Your Honor, this case is straightforward. Judge Franklin Cole was a respected jurist and beloved community member. But in his final years, following the death of his wife June, he fell under the influence of his granddaughter, the defendant. He gestures toward me without looking my way. Miss Wright manipulated an elderly man suffering from declining faculties to divert a substantial estate away from his only living child, his daughter Celeste Wright, and her husband Gavin, who should rightfully inherit under normal circumstances. The words slice through the air, aimed at my character. I focus on my breathing, the way grandfather taught me during my first mock trial in high school. In, hold, out. The facts will speak. Amelia squeezes my wrist once before rising from her chair. Her voice, when she speaks, carries the soft lilt of Georgia, but the precision of 20 years arguing before the Supreme Court. Your Honor, the plaintiff's characterization ignores 3 decades of documented history. She moves forward, her stance relaxed but purposeful. Franklin Cole changed his will 10 years ago, when his mental faculties were unquestionably intact, as his physician will testify. The plaintiffs, Celeste and Gavin Wright, abandoned their daughter, my client, when she was 4 months old, leaving her with Judge Cole and his wife June. She pauses, letting the words settle across the courtroom. 3 decades of love and presence speak louder than accusations from those who chose absence. This case isn't about manipulation. It's about recognition of the true definition of family: those who stay. The word stay hangs in the air between us. I keep my eyes forward, refusing to be baited into looking at the parents who never stayed for a single childhood illness, school play, or graduation. The parents who now want what grandfather built, what he chose to leave to me. I think of the countless Sunday afternoons I spent with grandfather on the porch swing, watching neighborhood children play catch with their fathers, while I pretended not to notice the hollow ache in my chest. I think of grandmother June's gentle hands braiding my hair for school, teaching me to bake her lemon poppy seed cake, tending her hibiscus garden that exploded with crimson blooms each summer. They stayed. They chose me every day for 32 years. And now I would defend that choice, that love, against the blood ties that had proven thinner than water. The battle for my grandfather's legacy and my own had begun. The courtroom's heavy oak doors swing open as court reconvenes after lunch. Mother freshens her lipstick the same coral shade she wore in the single photo she sent on my 16th birthday, while father straightens his tie with manicured fingers that never once braided my hair or wiped away my tears. Amelia slides a manila folder toward me. They've submitted financial statements claiming your grandfather abandoned your mother financially. My fingers trace the folder's edge. He sent them money for 22 years. Exactly. $3,200 every month. Amelia's eyes gleam with the satisfaction of someone holding royal flush cards. $845,000 total. I have the canceled checks and bank statements. Richard Dale strides to the front like a game show host, confidence oozing from his pinstripe suit. Your Honor, we'd like to present evidence of Judge Cole's deteriorating mental state over the past decade. Judge Avery nods. Proceed. Dale gestures toward a stack of documents. We have testimony suggesting Judge Cole became increasingly confused about his finances and family relationships. I clench my jaw so tight my molars ache. Grandfather reviewed Supreme Court cases the week before he died. He debated constitutional law over Sunday roast, just days before his heart failed. Additionally, Dale continues, we believe Miss Wright exercised undue influence over her grandfather, isolating him from his daughter. Mother dabs at her eyes again with that monogrammed handkerchief. The Cole family crest, 3 oak leaves, representing strength, longevity, and wisdom, seems to mock her performance from its embroidered corner. Amelia rises, smooth as water. Your Honor, if I may, we've prepared documentation that tells quite a different story. She approaches with a leather binder. These are June Cole's journals, spanning 30 years. Each entry meticulously documents promised visits from the plaintiffs that never materialized. The courtroom rustles like autumn leaves as Amelia opens to a flagged page. December 18th, 1998. Celeste promised to visit for Christmas. Bought Mackenzie that red bicycle she wanted, in case her mother asks what she'd like. Wrapped Celeste's gift too. Fourth Christmas she's missed. Mother's face hardens into marble. And this, Amelia continues, extracting a thick folder, contains Judge Cole's phone logs. Highlighted calls show attempts to reach Mr. Wright regarding school events, medical emergencies, and graduations. None returned. She places a photo album on the evidence table. And finally, Your Honor, photographs documenting 32 years of milestones. Kindergarten graduation, middle school honor roll, high school valedictorian speech, law school commencement. Judge Avery leans forward. And the plaintiffs? Absent in every photograph, Your Honor. Father shifts in his seat, eyes fixed on his Italian leather shoes. Mother's fingernails painted the exact shade of her lipstick drum against the table. During the short recess that follows, I escape to the courthouse garden, where hibiscus flowers bloom in riotous red against the limestone walls. Grandmother June planted hibiscus everywhere in garden beds, patio containers, even a small pot on the kitchen windowsill. Life still blossoms even after someone leaves, she would say while watering them. Not a hint of bitterness in her voice, just the quiet wisdom of a woman who had watched her only daughter walk away from her own child. I touch the velvety petal of a nearby bloom, and suddenly I'm 7 again, standing on a kitchen chair helping grandmother measure ingredients for her famous lemon poppy seed bundt cake. Every Saturday morning, the same ritual: sifting flour, cracking eggs, the citrus zing of lemon zest under my fingernails. Baking is about precision and patience, she would say, her silver-streaked hair falling across her forehead as she demonstrated how to fold, not stir, the batter. Just like life, Mackenzie. When court resumes, something shifts inside me. This isn't about defending my inheritance. It's about protecting their memory, the people who stayed, who chose me every day while my parents chose absence. You okay? Amelia whispers, noting my straightened posture. Yes, I'm ready. You remind me of your grandfather on the bench right now. The afternoon brings a parade of witnesses who knew us, knew the truth. Doris Taylor, the court clerk who worked with grandfather for 3 decades, describes his sharp mind and unwavering ethics. Dr. Reynolds testifies to grandfather's excellent cognitive function until his final days. Then Martha Wilson takes the stand, our housekeeper of 25 years. Her silver hair is pulled into the same neat bun she wore when bandaging my skinned knees and teaching me how to iron grandfather's shirts. Every Sunday, Martha says, her voice steady despite Dale's aggressive questioning. Without fail, Miss Mackenzie prepared Sunday dinner with Judge Cole. Even after she moved to her own apartment, even during law school exams, she'd cook his favorite pot roast, set the table with Mrs. Cole's good china. And after June Cole died? Amelia asks gently. Martha's eyes find mine. Miss Mackenzie never missed a Sunday, not one in 10 years. She'd bring fresh flowers for the table hibiscus when they were in season, because those were her grandmother's favorite. I blink rapidly, fighting tears. In the gallery behind me sit colleagues from the prosecutor's office, filling 3 rows. People who've watched me build cases against financial fraudsters and white-collar criminals now witness me defending the most personal case of my life. Dale rises for cross-examination. Martha, isn't it true that Mackenzie Wright controlled who had access to Judge Cole in his final years? No, sir, that isn't true, Martha replies without hesitation. Judge Cole made his own decisions until the day he passed. Miss Mackenzie respected his wishes, that's all. A flash of frustration crosses Dale's face. Motion to strike the witness's personal opinions from the record. Denied, Judge Avery says, almost too quickly. The witness is describing observed behaviors, not opinions. Dale shifts tactics. Your Honor, we move to dismiss Judge Cole's personal journals as hearsay evidence. Judge Avery removes his glasses, polishing them deliberately with a handkerchief. Motion denied. The journals constitute contemporaneous documentation and will remain admissible. Mother's face tightens. Father leans to whisper something in her ear, his eyes darting toward the exit. The first hints of victory flutter in my chest when Judge Avery admits into evidence grandfather's final handwritten letter, the one he wrote a week before his heart attack, the one where he explained why he changed his will a decade ago. The decision wasn't made in haste or confusion, he wrote. It was made with clarity after watching for 20 years, which family member demonstrated the meaning of the word. Mother's hands tremble slightly as she accepts a glass of water from Dale. For the first time since the proceedings began, I allow myself to believe that truth might actually prevail against the determined fiction my parents have constructed. And somewhere between the stack of financial records and the decades of documented absence, I find something unexpected. The strength that comes from knowing exactly who I am and where I belong. Not because of whose blood runs through my veins, but because of whose values run through my heart. The Charleston Post and Courier lands on my doorstep with a thud that echoes through the empty hallway. I don't need to unfold it to know what's there. My mother's face, carefully composed in tragic beauty, stares from below the fold. Family estate battle divides Charleston legacy, screams the headline. I force myself to read the article. Celeste describes being systematically alienated from her father's affection. She weeps about the calculated effort to turn Franklin Cole against his only daughter, not one word acknowledging the 4-month-old baby she abandoned on her parents' doorstep. The phone rings before I finish. Mackenzie, right? The voice is unfamiliar, gruff. Speaking. You should be ashamed. Stealing from your own mother. The line goes dead. 3 more calls follow, all strangers, all convinced by Celeste's theater of tears. By noon, my office voicemail fills with messages questioning my integrity. The prosecuting attorney who manipulated her elderly grandfather. The ungrateful daughter denying her parents their rightful inheritance. Their words burrow under my skin like splinters. I stand at the window of grandfather's my study, watching rain bead against century-old glass. The garden lies dormant, grandmother's prized hibiscus waiting for warmer days. My reflection stares back, shoulders slightly hunched, a posture Grandmother June would have corrected with a gentle touch. Stand tall, Mackenzie, she would say, like my hibiscus flowers. On the bookshelf behind me, leather-bound journals line up like sentinels. I trace their spines, pausing at one bound in green fabric, June's gardening journal. I haven't opened it since her passing 3 years ago. Inside, her elegant script details planting schedules and soil conditions, but in the margins, something else catches my eye. Life lessons, written as if in conversation with the plants she tended. Hibiscus survive winter when everything appears dead. She wrote beside a sketch of crimson blooms. The strongest flowers emerge from the coldest winters. Remember this, Mackenzie. My name, written in her hand, releases something tight in my chest. On the desk sits another treasure, a leather notebook grandfather gave me at my law school graduation. Inside the cover, his precise handwriting. Ethics aren't situational, Mackenzie. They're the foundation upon which justice stands. I remember watching him on the bench years ago, a summer internship that confirmed my path to law. A defendant had accused him of bias. Franklin Cole hadn't flinched. Justice isn't revenge, he told me afterward. It's the restoration of truth. And truth. The word settles in my mind like a stone in still water. I will not dishonor their memory with bitterness. I straighten my spine and lift my chin, stand tall like the hibiscus. The courthouse buzzes with anticipation the following morning. My mother takes the stand, dabbing at manufactured tears with practiced precision. Her cashmere sweater, robin's egg blue, not navy, complements her complexion perfectly. My father abandoned me, she testifies, voice breaking artfully. When Mackenzie came along, it was as if I ceased to exist. Richard Dale guides her through carefully scripted testimony. And your relationship with your daughter? I tried, Celeste whispers. But Franklin and June wouldn't allow it. They turned her against me. The gallery murmurs sympathetically. I keep my face neutral, fingers pressed against grandmother's pearl earring in my pocket, a grounding touch. Amelia rises for cross-examination, a stack of documents in hand. Her Georgia accent thickens slightly, a tactical choice that puts witnesses at ease before she strikes. Mrs. Wright, you testified that Judge Cole abandoned you. Is that correct? Yes. Celeste dabs her eyes. I have here visitation logs from 1993 through 2008. Amelia approaches the witness stand. Your signatures appear on 10 occasions in 15 years. 10 visits to your daughter in 15 years. Would you characterize that as maternal devotion? Celeste's jaw tightens. Those logs don't show the times I was turned away. Interesting. Amelia selects another document. I also have emails from your account to Judge Cole. The 12th of May, 2001. Can't make Mackenzie's recital. Send money for the Manhattan apartment deposit. The 23rd of December 2006. Christmas visit impossible this year. The Aspen house we're renting won't allow children. The 8th of September 2012. Mackenzie's high school graduation conflicts with our Mediterranean cruise. Each date hammers against the courtroom silence. Behind me, someone gasps. And this handwritten note from Judge Cole. Amelia displays the document on the screen. Franklin's precise script reads, "Broken promises, again." Mackenzie waited by the window until midnight. How do I explain this time? The tears on my mother's cheeks are real now, anger, not sorrow. The courtroom shifts subtly, like an ocean current changing direction. Martha Pullman takes the stand next, grandmother's housekeeper for 30 years, a fixture of Sunday dinners throughout my childhood. Her gray hair sits in a neat bun, hands folded primly in her lap. After Mrs. Cole passed, Mackenzie never missed a Sunday, Martha testifies. Even during law school finals, she'd drive from Duke on Saturday night, help the judge with his medications, attend church with him Sunday morning, and prepare dinner before driving back. And the plaintiffs? Amelia asks. Mrs. Wright called twice a year, maybe. Always about money. Mr. Wright, Martha sniffs. Never heard his voice in that house. Neighbors follow the Petersons, who watched me shovel Franklin's walkway after every snowfall. Dr. Williams, who taught me to drive in the church parking lot when my parents forgot my 16th birthday. Professor Harmon, who supervised my law school thesis while I cared for my grandfather after his hip surgery. Judge Avery's pen moves steadily across his legal pad. He looks up when my mentor from Duke Law takes the stand. Mackenzie worked through weekends to maintain her class standing while visiting her grandfather every Sunday. Professor Montgomery testifies. When other students took spring break trips, she drove to Charleston to help Judge Cole with his taxes. Did she ever discuss inheritance expectations with you? Amelia asks. Never. Not once. Franklin's financial advisor confirms I never inquired about the estate. Never requested funds beyond my college tuition. The narrative shifts with each testimony, the courtroom sympathy flowing away from Celeste's performance toward the documented reality of 3 decades. During afternoon recess, Amelia touches my shoulder. Gavin's cross-examination next. Ready? I nod, watching my father across the courtroom. He straightens his tie repeatedly, avoiding eye contact with Mother, whose earlier composure has crumbled into barely contained fury. When proceedings resume, Gavin Wright takes the stand. His expensive suit and carefully styled hair project success, but his fingers drum nervously against his thigh. Amelia approaches slowly. Mr. Wright, did you attend your daughter's graduation? Silence stretches across the courtroom. He clears his throat. Which one? The gallery stirs. Someone coughs to cover a laugh. Any of them, Amelia replies evenly. High school? College? Law school? I was traveling for business. The standard excuse of my childhood. Where did Mackenzie attend law school, Mr. Wright? His eyes dart to Celeste, who stares stonily ahead. I believe it was University of South Carolina? It was Duke University Law School. She graduated summa cum laude. Amelia pauses. Have you ever visited your daughter's home? The home you're currently suing her for? Not recently. Have you ever visited it? Another painful silence. No. The courtroom murmurs grow louder. Judge Avery taps his gavel once, a gentle warning. My father's disconnection from my life becomes starkly evident with each question. He doesn't know my address. Can't name my closest friends. Doesn't recall a single birthday gift he might have sent. Across the room, my mother's facade cracks further. Her knuckles whiten around her purse strap. The performance is failing, the audience turning against her. I sit straight-backed, Grandmother June's voice in my ear, stand tall like the hibiscus. The strongest flowers emerge from the coldest winters. As the day draws to a close, Richard Dale rises with unexpected energy. Your Honor, we call Dr. James Morrison to the stand. An unfamiliar man walks forward, mid-60s, silver-haired, with wire-rimmed glasses. My stomach tightens. Who is that? I whisper to Amelia. Not in our witness disclosures, she murmurs back, flipping through documents. Dale introduces him as Franklin Cole's former physician, claiming he has critical testimony about grandfather's mental state during his final years. Judge Avery frowns. This witness wasn't on your list, counselor. Recent discovery, Your Honor. Critical to establishing Judge Cole's vulnerability to undue influence. Amelia objects immediately, but Judge Avery allows limited testimony in the interest of complete examination. As the man settles into the witness chair, I notice something familiar, a nervous habit of adjusting his glasses with his middle finger rather than his index finger. The same odd gesture I'd seen years ago, at a medical conference where grandfather spoke. "Don't worry," Amelia whispers as Dale approaches his surprise witness. "Trust the preparation." I nod, watching Dr. Morrison's hands. He adjusts his glasses again, middle finger pushing at the bridge. A memory surfaces. Grandmother June's voice, gentle but firm. "Remember, Mackenzie, truth doesn't need rehearsal." I lean forward, studying the doctor's nervous mannerisms as he begins to speak about memory issues and suggestibility in my grandfather's final years. There's something else familiar here, something I can't quite place. Judge Avery watches the new witness with narrowed eyes. The courtroom holds its breath. And suddenly, I know exactly who this man is. The courtroom falls silent as Dr. William Barrett adjusts his bow tie, his fingers trembling slightly against the polished wood of the witness stand. Mother smiles with that particular curve of her lips I've seen since childhood, the expression that accompanies her confidence in getting exactly what she wants. "Dr. Barrett, how long did you treat Judge Franklin Cole?" Richard Dale's voice carries that practiced sincerity that sounds hollow to anyone who's spent time in courtrooms. Barrett clears his throat. "I saw Judge Cole twice in the months before his passing. And during those visits, did you observe any signs that might indicate Judge Cole was being manipulated?" My muscles tense. Amelia places her hand over mine beneath the table, a gentle warning to maintain composure. Objection. Calls for speculation. Amelia states, her Georgia lilt more pronounced when she's irritated. Judge Avery's silver eyebrows draw together. "I'll allow it, but tread carefully, Mr. Dale." Barrett nods eagerly. "Yes, I observed several concerning signs. The judge seemed confused about his finances. He mentioned feeling pressured regarding decisions about his estate." From the corner of my eye, I catch Mother's theatrical nod, her handkerchief making another appearance. Amelia rises slowly, buttoning her jacket with deliberate calm. "Dr. Barrett, you mentioned seeing Judge Cole twice. Would you share the specific dates of those appointments?" "March 12th and April 3rd of last year." "And what was your relationship with Judge Cole before these appointments?" Barrett shifts. "I hadn't treated him previously." "So you weren't his primary physician?" "No, but..." "When did you open your practice in Charleston, Dr. Barrett?" He swallows visibly. 8 months ago." "With whom did you establish this practice?" Dale stands. "Objection, relevance." "Goes to credibility, Your Honor," Amelia responds. "Overruled. The witness will answer." Barrett's collar suddenly seems too tight, with Dr. Thomas Reynolds. "And what is Dr. Reynolds' relationship to Celeste Wright?" The courtroom stirs. Barrett's gaze darts toward Mother before answering. "He's her cousin." Amelia nods once, retrieving a file from her table. "I'd like to enter into evidence, Exhibit 43, Your Honor." These are Judge Cole's complete medical records from his primary physician of 30 years, Dr. Harold Simmons. Dale launches to his feet. "Objection. Those records weren't provided during discovery." "They absolutely were, Your Honor. Page 211 of our disclosure packet, submitted 2 months ago." Amelia doesn't even glance at Dale as she speaks. Judge Avery leafs through a folder. "Objection overruled. Records were properly disclosed." Amelia approaches Barrett with a stack of documents. "These records show that Dr. Simmons performed a complete cognitive assessment of Judge Cole just 1 week after your second appointment. Would you please read his conclusion on page 4, paragraph 2? Barrett's voice wavers. "Cognitive function remains sharp and consistent with previous evaluations. Patient demonstrates excellent recall of recent and distant events. No evidence of confusion or impairment in decision-making capacity." "Thank you, Dr. Barrett." Amelia places another document before him. "Now, could you please explain this prescription you wrote for Judge Cole during your second visit?" Barrett pales. "It's for a mild sedative." "Was this medication requested by Judge Cole?" "Not exactly." "Who suggested this medication, Dr. Barrett?" His eyes flick toward Mother again. Mrs. Wright expressed concern about her father's anxiety. Yet Dr. Simmons' notes indicate Judge Cole reported no anxiety symptoms at his appointment the following week. Interesting. Amelia turns toward the bench. No further questions for this witness. Dale rises for redirect. But Barrett's testimony has unraveled beyond repair. Each question only deepens the hole. Mother scribbles furious notes, passing them to Dale, who barely glances at them before sighing. Father leans toward Mother, whispering something that makes her face flush crimson. They've started to fracture, each blaming the other for the collapsing case. The defense calls Mackenzie right, Amelia announces. Taking the stand feels surreal, as if I'm floating outside my body. I adjust the collar of my blouse, grateful for the extra starch Martha insisted on this morning. That judge needs to see you're solid as bedrock, she'd said while pressing it. After I'm sworn in, Amelia approaches. Miss Wright, there have been insinuations that you manipulated your grandfather for financial gain. If that were true, wouldn't there have been easier ways to secure his money than spending every Sunday for 30 years at his dinner table? Yes. My voice comes out steadier than expected. I'm a prosecutor with a comfortable salary. If I'd wanted his money, I wouldn't have spent 3 decades of Sundays listening to his stories about cases from 1972. A few quiet chuckles ripple through the courtroom. Did that Sunday dinner tradition change after your grandmother passed away? I swallow around the sudden thickness in my throat, only in one way. I started bringing the lemon poppy seed cake instead of her making it. Everything else stayed the same: 6 o'clock sharp, classical music on the radio, and grandfather's stories. And why did you maintain this tradition? The answer is simple. I stayed because I loved him. Dale stands for cross-examination, his confidence visibly diminished since the morning. Miss Wright, isn't it true that you influenced your grandfather's decision to change his will after your grandmother's death? No. His will was changed 10 years ago, when grandmother was still alive. They made the decision together. But you discussed the will with him? He discussed it with me. He was a judge for 40 years, Mr. Dale. No one influenced Franklin Cole to do anything he didn't believe was right. Dale tries another angle. You were aware of the contents of the will? Yes. Grandfather believed in transparency. He showed me the will and explained that he and grandmother had decided to leave their estate to me rather than to parents who had chosen not to be part of my life. From the gallery, I hear several people murmuring in agreement. Judge Avery makes no move to silence them. My boss, District Attorney Robert Langston, takes the stand next, his imposing frame making the witness chair look too small. I've supervised Mackenzie Wright for 6 years, he states without prompting. She's prosecuted financial crimes worth millions. If there were a prosecutor in my office I'd trust with my own estate, it would be her. Her integrity is beyond reproach. Judge Avery nods, then speaks directly from the bench. I've known Franklin Cole for nearly 30 years. He mentored me when I joined the judiciary. In all that time, I never once saw him make a decision that wasn't thoroughly considered and ethically sound. Dale's objection comes too late, and without conviction. The judge simply notes it for the record without acknowledging it further. During the afternoon recess, I step into the hallway for air, and overhear Father's harsh whisper to Mother near the water fountain. You pushed this too far, Celeste. Barrett was a disaster. Barrett. How was I supposed to know they'd have those records? Thomas said. Thomas said. Your whole family talks big but delivers nothing. Mother spots me and falls silent, pulling Father away by his sleeve. When court reconvenes, Richard Dale requests a conference with Amelia. They speak in hushed tones at the side of the courtroom before approaching the bench together. After a brief discussion with Judge Avery, they return to their respective tables. Amelia leans close. They're offering to drop the suit if you'll pay their legal fees. I shake my head once. No. She squeezes my hand. Good. That's what I told them. Mother sits ramrod straight at the plaintiff's table, but the cracks in her facade have widened. Her cousin, seated 3 rows back, stares fixedly at his shoes rather than meeting Barrett's questioning gaze from across the room. Judge Avery clears his throat. Based on the testimony and evidence presented today, I'm prepared to issue a ruling unless counsel has additional witnesses. Dale rises. No additional witnesses, Your Honor. Very well. Judge Avery's gaze sweeps the courtroom before settling on me. Sometimes the law is complicated. This case is not. The evidence clearly shows that Franklin Cole was of sound mind when he executed his will, and that his intentions were deliberate and informed. He turns toward my parents. The plaintiffs have failed to provide any credible evidence of undue influence or diminished capacity. Their claim is dismissed with prejudice. Their sack. The gavel falls, sharp and final. Mother's face contorts with fury, but it's father who surprises me. For just a moment, something like relief crosses his features before the mask of indignation returns. As people file out of the courtroom, Amelia gathers her papers. Your grandfather would be proud. I nod, unable to speak past the knot in my throat. The victory brings no joy, only quiet vindication, and the certainty that grandfather and grandmother's legacy remains intact. They stayed when it mattered. And in honoring their choice today, so did I. Celeste corners me outside the third-floor bathroom, her Chanel perfume creating an invisible barrier between us. The courthouse hallway stretches empty in both directions, witnesses scattered to their own corners during the 15-minute recess before closing arguments. Mackenzie. Her voice lacks the practiced warmth she uses in the courtroom. We should talk. I straighten my charcoal suit jacket, a shield against whatever manipulation comes next. About? This division. She steps closer, her diamond earrings catching the fluorescent light. You might have the law and money on your side, but I have your blood. The word blood hangs between us like an accusation. I think of grandfather's handwritten journals documenting each missed birthday, each broken promise, each time my mother chose absence over presence. Would your grandmother want this? Celeste whispers, her perfectly manicured hand reaching toward my arm but stopping short of actual contact. June was all about family unity, about forgiveness. My throat tightens at the casual invocation of grandmother's name. Celeste barely knew her own mother in adulthood, visiting less than once a year while I helped June tend her hibiscus garden every Saturday morning for 27 years. We could end this today, she continues, misreading my silence as hesitation. I'm willing to forgive and forget everything if you'll simply split the inheritance. 50-50. That's fair, isn't it? Mother and daughter sharing equally? Her eyes identical to mine in shape and color scan my face for weakness. For the little girl who once waited by the mailbox for cards that rarely came. Think about the community. She presses. Everyone's talking. The pastor at Trinity called me yesterday about the tragedy of family division. I almost laugh. Pastor Roberts had called me too, his concern genuine after 3 decades of watching me sit beside grandfather in the 4th pew every Easter Sunday, while my parents remained phantom figures in holiday photographs. The Charleston Post is running a piece next week, Celeste adds. Family against family. Is that what you want your legacy to be? What about the Cole family reputation? Before I can answer, Richard Dale rounds the corner with his leather portfolio and nods to my mother. Judge Avery's returning in 5 minutes. Celeste's gaze hardens. Think about it, Mackenzie. Blood matters in this town. Always has. They disappear down the hall, leaving me alone with the echo of her words and the weight of 32 years of carefully documented absence. I push open the bathroom door and stand before the mirror, studying my reflection. Gray eyes, straight nose, firm chin, all inherited from a woman who considered motherhood an inconvenience. But there's something else. Something June cultivated through quiet Saturday mornings in the garden when she taught me to transplant hibiscus shoots with gentle hands. Life still blossoms, she'd say, even after someone leaves. I see June's strength reflected back at me now. And I hear grandfather's voice, clear as it was during our last Sunday dinner. Integrity isn't what you claim, Mackenzie. It's what you demonstrate. The bathroom door swings open, and Amelia steps inside. Her eyes meet mine in the mirror. They're trying a last-minute settlement offer, I heard. They are. She studies my expression and nods once. You've made your decision. I turn from the mirror, straightening my shoulders the way grandfather did before delivering a verdict. Truth over peace. Good. Amelia holds the door. Because your grandfather's journals just arrived from his chambers. Judge Avery granted our motion despite Dale's objections. The courtroom buzzes with anticipation when we enter. The gallery has swelled with Charleston's old guard, come to witness the final act of our family drama. I glimpse familiar faces, neighbors who watched me grow up. Law colleagues. Even Pastor Roberts sitting in the back row with his well-worn Bible. Celeste and Gavin whisper urgently to Dale, as Judge Avery takes his seat. My father's expensive tie is slightly askew, his first visible sign of discomfort since the trial began. Closing arguments, Avery announces, nodding toward Dale. Richard Dale buttons his suit jacket as he approaches the bench. Your Honor, this case ultimately transcends legal technicalities. It's about blood, about family. About a mother seeking to restore her rightful place in her daughter's life through the inheritance that should flow naturally from father to daughter. He gestures toward the gallery. The community understands this. Charleston traditions honor family unity above all. We've heard from respected community members, Pastor Roberts, family friends, even Mackenzie's childhood neighbors, all urging reconciliation. Dale's voice rises passionately. Celeste Wright may have made mistakes as a young mother, but what parent hasn't? Should those mistakes cost her everything? Should a mere legal document override the sanctity of blood relations? Judge Avery's expression remains impassive as Dale concludes with an appeal to tradition and blood over cold legal documents. When Amelia rises, she carries only a single sheet of paper. Your Honor, this case has never been about blood. It's about choice, about who stays. She unfolds the paper carefully. This letter was found in Judge Franklin Cole's desk, dated 2 weeks before his death. With the court's permission, I'd like to read it. Avery nods, and Amelia begins reading in her measured Georgia accent. Mackenzie, you inherit not because of blood, but because you stayed. When Sunday dinners became difficult for me after June passed, you never missed one. When law school demanded your weekends, you studied at my kitchen table. When Celeste and Gavin asked for money, which the bank records show exceeded $845,000 over 22 years, they never once asked about you. End quote. The courtroom falls silent as she continues. A parent isn't defined by biology but by presence. I choose you as my heir because you chose me as your family. Every Sunday, every holiday, every ordinary day when showing up mattered. She places the letter on the exhibit table and turns to face the judge. Evidence, Your Honor, not emotion, should govern this court's decision. The evidence shows decades of financial support to the plaintiffs alongside their consistent absence. It shows Franklin Cole's mental acuity until his final days, confirmed by medical records. And it shows a lifetime of Sundays when Mackenzie Wright chose to stay, while her parents chose to leave. Amelia looks directly at Celeste and Gavin. What kind of parents sue their own child after abandoning her? What kind of mother invokes family unity after 3 decades of documented absence? The question before this court isn't about blood. It's about the true definition of family. I feel tears press against my eyelids as Amelia returns to her seat. Beside me, she places a tissue in my hand without looking. I squeeze it tight but don't use it. Not yet. Judge Avery removes his glasses, polishing them slowly with a handkerchief. The courtroom remains hushed, holding its collective breath. Having reviewed all evidence and testimony presented in this case, he begins. I find the will of the Honorable Franklin Cole to be valid and executed with sound mind and full legal capacity. He replaces his glasses, looking directly at Celeste and Gavin. The plaintiff's claim is dismissed with prejudice. Furthermore, the plaintiffs shall pay the defendants reasonable attorney fees, as permitted under state law, for frivolous lawsuits, without substantial justification. The gavel strikes with finality, echoing across the courtroom. This court is adjourned. Only then do I allow the tears to fall, not for the inheritance secured or the lawsuit defeated, but for the validation of a truth I've always known. Family isn't determined by blood running through veins, but by feet that walk toward you when others walk away. Celeste and Gavin rise quickly, avoiding my gaze as they follow Dale through the side door. No final words, no acknowledgement, just departure, the one consistent action they've shown throughout my life. Amelia squeezes my shoulder once. Justice served, she whispers. Your grandfather would be proud. Ka. I nod, unable to speak past the knot in my throat. The courtroom empties slowly, murmurs fading, like receding tides. I remain seated, watching sunlight filter through tall windows onto the empty plaintiff's table. The inheritance matters less than what it represents. Recognition that family is defined by who stays when leaving is easier. And for 32 years, through scraped knees and law school graduations, through grandmother's funeral and quiet Sunday dinners, my grandparents stayed. I gather my portfolio with steady hands. Tomorrow I'll visit their graves with fresh hibiscus cuttings from the garden they taught me to tend. Tonight, I'll bake grandmother's lemon poppy seed cake and eat it alone at their kitchen table. Some would call it victory. I call it vindication. And somewhere I know grandfather and grandmother are calling it justice. The nameplate on my office door still catches me off guard sometimes. The Honorable Mackenzie Wright gleams in polished brass against dark mahogany. One year, as South Carolina's youngest state judge, hasn't dulled the quiet pride that rises in my chest each morning. I smooth my charcoal skirt as I settle behind the bench, studying the faces before me. Another inheritance dispute. Another daughter claiming her mother favored a grandchild unfairly. Another echo of my own story played out with different characters. Mrs. Reynolds claims her mother was manipulated into changing her will. The plaintiff's attorney states, his voice carrying the same entitled certainty Richard Dale once used. The defendant, her daughter Beth, took advantage. Objection, Your Honor. Beth's attorney rises. Prejudicial characterization. Sustained. My voice carries Franklin's measured cadence. Counsel, restrict yourself to facts, not conclusions. Later, I watch the Reynolds women avoid eye contact across the courtroom, the same cold gulf I once faced with Celeste, the daughter who left, versus the granddaughter who stayed. When court adjourns, I retreat to my chambers where Franklin's legal volumes line one wall. I run my fingers across their worn spines, touchstones of continuity. His penciled notes still mark important passages, little breadcrumbs of wisdom left behind. My phone buzzes with Martha's weekly text. Hibiscus blooming like crazy. Bring home cuttings? Martha refused to retire after Franklin passed. This house needs people who remember, she'd insisted, continuing to dust the photographs that chronicle a life without Celeste and Gavin. The lemon poppy seed bundt cake waits on my counter every Saturday, Martha following June's recipe with religious precision. Some traditions shouldn't end, even when the people who started them are gone. I no longer waste energy wondering if Celeste will call on my birthday. The space once reserved for parental approval has been filled with something sturdier. A chosen family of courthouse colleagues, law school friends, and neighbors who gather around my table each Sunday, continuing Franklin's dinner tradition. Judge Wright? My clerk appears at the door. Your 4 o'clock custody hearing is ready. The Anderson case. My heart tightens. 5-year-old boy caught between warring parents, his father showing up only when convenient. I straighten Franklin's fountain pen on my blotter before rising. In the courtroom, I study the child's drawings submitted as evidence. Stick figures labeled Mommy and Grandma stand beside a house. No father appears. Mr. Anderson. I address the father directly. Children don't remember what we say. They remember who showed up. The words spread across the courtroom like ripples in still water. The father's eyes widen in recognition. Perhaps something will change for this child. That evening, I drive to Magnolia Cemetery as sunset gilds the weathered tombstones. I kneel between two graves, placing fresh hibiscus blossoms vibrant crimson against pale marble. I kept my promise. I whisper to June's headstone, laying a slice of lemon cake wrapped in wax paper. I protected what you built. Wind rustles through the live oaks overhead. Here, kneeling between the people who chose me every day for 32 years, gratitude finally outweighs grief. The Reynolds case ended today. I tell Franklin's grave. The granddaughter inherited. Truth prevailed. A cardinal lands on a nearby branch, brilliant red against darkening sky. I remember June pointing them out. When they visit, someone you love is checking on you. I rise, brushing grass from my skirt. Their legacy continues not just in property or possessions, but in every fair ruling, every child protected, every truth honored. Family is who stays, I whisper, and walk toward home.